It was my goal when making this video to decide which city is the most depressing, which, in this situation, I'm just using as a synonym for unhappy. Now, this is obviously just my opinion, but I did put some research into this, and I think that my answer is reasonable. Before we get into this, let's take a look at the rules. I decided that a city cannot have fewer than 50,000 people. Now, I know that's not the official definition of a city, but I think it takes a lot of remote settlements in places like Greenland out of the mix. I decided to look at what factors cause unhappiness. I found this list, and while some factors have no relation to geography, two do: inability to sleep or excessive sleeping, and social isolation. In order for a city to make it hard to sleep, it has to be very far north or very far south. Cities inside the Arctic Circle experience the polar night, where the sun simply does not come up for days at a time. This has been known to cause insomnia. In order for a city to cause social isolation, it needs to have a hostile environment that keeps people indoors. Luckily, most cities in the Arctic Circle check that box. It also has to be isolated from other cities and inaccessible. There are many Scandinavian cities that have hostile environments and are far north, but these cities, such as Tromsø, are tourist destinations and generally pretty good places to live with high standards of living. Next, we have to turn to Russia. Two cities caught my eye immediately: the coal mining town of Vorkuta and remote port Murmansk. However, coal mining has become unprofitable in Vorkuta, so people are moving out at alarming rates. Plus, just look at this picture and tell me that doesn't look jolly. And being a port city, Murmansk naturally has contact with new ideas and people that an inland city might not receive. However, there is one city that I left out. Norilsk, the nickel mining city of 170-something thousand people, is so hostile it seems like something out of 1984. No roads lead to Norilsk, and that's not an exaggeration. Actually, 0 roads lead away from Norilsk. And it's one of 3 large cities in the continuous permafrost zone. That means that the land is unfarmable. There is one freight railway that leads to the city, but the only way out is an airport or a port 40 miles away that freezes over in the winter. Norilsk enters continuous darkness for 45 days each year, and when people leave the city, they say that they're going to the mainland, even though it's not an island. The polar night syndrome is common in residents, and you can probably figure out why. It is also one of the most polluted cities on Earth. Here's a quick list of facts about Norilsk's pollution. 1% of global emissions of sulfur dioxide come from Norilsk nickel mines. It is so polluted that some people mine the soil for soot because it contains precious minerals. In September of 2016, the nearby river turned red, and people don't know why still. The life expectancy of a worker in Norilsk is 10 years lower than a life expectancy of a normal Russian worker. A study done by Boris Revich showed that blood illnesses were 44% higher, nervous system illnesses 38% higher, and bone and muscle system illnesses 28% higher among children in Norilsk when compared to other children in Siberia. In any other city, people might protest these terrible polluted conditions, but in Norilsk, the income for nearly everybody comes from one company, Norilsk Nickel. Any protesters would just be fired, because even if you don't work in the mines, Norilsk Nickel also owns all nearby businesses in town, and the Russian government has no plans to step in because this company is a cash cow. Norilsk Nickel produces 2% of the Russian GDP. In comparison, the entire city of San Francisco is 2% of the US GDP. The city has a depressing past as well. It was built by 500,000 Gulag prisoners working under starving conditions throughout the month-long days and nights, of which 18,000 died. The most obvious relic of this era can be found all over the city: the Stalinist utilitarian architecture of every single building. But hey, they painted the city bright colors, so it can't be that bad, right?